Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'm a marketing specialist here at Educate 360. Welcome to today's webinar, Career Paths in Project Management, presented by the Managing Director at Velopi, Seamus Collins. We are in Zoom for today's session, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use the chat or the Q&A option for our short Q&A portion after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today. I will now hand it over to you, Seamus.
All right. Thank you, Mariella. My name is Seamus Collins, as Mariella said, and I'm going to talk to you about career paths in project management today. I've been involved in project management all my professional career pretty much, and I meet a lot of project managers day in, day out. And often the conversation turns to, where will I go next, Seamus? What do you think? And I try and give people advice on this topic. But I'm mainly a trainer, and so I have a good understanding of the progression. And I suppose I've visited so many companies, I understand how these ladders work and maybe how to get on them and how to move to the next step. And as I said, I've built this up over the last almost 30 years at this point. So look, there's a few things I just want to touch with you. And as I said, feel free to reach out to me after through LinkedIn or follow up with the Educate 360 folks, and they'll put you in touch with me directly. And you'll have my contact details. But I'm happy to talk to anyone about, what's maybe the right or wrong thing to do in their career path in project management. And you're free to take the advice or discard it as well. So all I want to do is talk to you, how do we progress our careers in project management? Why is maybe some certification a part of that, or an important part of that? And I want to differentiate between professional certifications and academic certifications, because they're two different things, and they both may or may not help you, right? So I just want to make sure you understand the options. Again, why would you come to us for one of these? But I'm not here to sell you these. I'm here to try and maybe give you the career path stuff, and if something here helps you, then great. And then I suppose what options. So look, I'll talk you through it, and I'll just show you the normal paths that people take. Now, some people would start off by describing, if you asked anyone here, or people would say, how did you get into project management? And some people would describe it as an accidental profession, as in, I don't know how this happened to me. I didn't plan to be here. A lot of the project managers we meet, they did engineering in college, or they did, I don't know, history, or they did something else, but the project management wasn't on the radar. But then when they got to work, they found themselves organizing, scheduling, managing stakeholders, and bringing, different skill sets. And I'd often say to people, what do you do? And they'd say, I'm not a project manager. But when they describe what they do, they are a project manager, really. They're coordinating work, they're attending meetings, they're identifying and managing risks, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd say, but you're project managing. They go, am I? I suppose I am. So it's very interesting that many of us, it's accidental how we started, but then once we're in there, we find we're good at it, and we need to understand how to progress our career in that space and make some money out of it as well, and also get, obviously, the fulfillment you need from your career. So most people, as I said, start off, I suppose, by falling into the job in some cases, not necessarily by design. In all cases, they take on some role, and maybe then they get the training after they do the initial few projects, kind of cart before the horse approach. But once they're in there and they start to see they get a good feel for the job, and they say, actually, I want to go further in this space. I suppose that's where we start to have conversations with people, and how people then move maybe from projects up to programs, and up eventually maybe to be the portfolio manager or the head of their PMO in their organization. So let's talk through this. I suppose the first thing I would say to people all the time when I present any topic like this is that there's a growing need for project managers in the world. And these pulse of the profession and PMI stats, sometimes when I look at these, I think, oh my God, that's a lot of PM roles. That's probably exaggerated. But then those roles get filled, and the next forecast again is even bigger. And you can see here, the growing need for project managers, and a lot of work now in companies that historically wasn't projectized, for the want of a better word, is now using project management tools and techniques and language as a way of getting that piece of work done, whereas historically it might have been somewhat more ad hoc. So project management is everywhere, really, in every industry. But given the amount of wastage that's going on, we don't just need more project managers, we need better ones. And that's where this idea of career path comes from, I suppose, in project management. And in some of the earlier companies I worked in, there was no career path. There was a technical ladder and there was a managerial ladder, and project managers had no ladder per se. So, but given the prevalence and the explosion in project management capability in organizations, a lot of companies now would have a PM ladder as well, to complement, say, technical ladders or managerial ladders. But we need better project managers. Okay, so we develop their skills given the amount of money that's being pumped into projects today. I suppose project management certification then would obviously prove to your employer or prove to yourself in many cases that, yeah, what I'm doing is pretty sound academically, and um, it's not something you made up yourself. It's backed up by best practices, backed up by academic papers, etc., etc. That this is the right way of doing it, and you're on top of your game. And when you are on top of your game and you have these certifications, a lot of the studies would say that the good project managers, certified project managers, are making a lot more money than the uncertified people. Okay. The first thing, I suppose, what I'd say is, if you are a project manager, sometimes project managers got a bad press early on because some people saw them really as maybe process police. You got to use this template, you got to use, and I say we're not that. Really, we need to be thinking the project manager has to change. You don't want to be the process police in your company. Um, you're doing it for a reason. You're doing it to deliver value. And many project managers and many PMOs, in fact, struggle to articulate that value proposition by having some KPIs around it. That's a separate conversation. But you're at the end of the day, it's a project manager needs a lot more than processes. A project manager needs to understand people, because it's people do the work. And very often, again, in my early career, I found that people that were in leadership roles or management roles were getting this management of people stuff, and I wasn't getting any of that training. And I really needed maybe the people skills, or as they were called back then, soft skills, now called power skills. I probably needed them more than the people managing the people, because I was trying to get the people to do the work as the project manager. So you start to think of it as that we need to be able to manage processes. We need to be able to manage people in an evolving business environment to try and deliver value. And that environment is constantly changing. So you can't just kind of close your eyes and ears to what's happening around you. You need to understand the organization and the value, the benefit you're seeking. So I suppose in the past, a lot of project managers started off with them producing this deliverable. They were going to produce that and keep on trying to produce it regardless of whether the business case was still there or not. If the benefit was maybe compromised, maybe there was an environmental change that the project was no longer needed. Maybe in some cases, some people kept on plowing ahead. So the first thing I would say to you, if you are in a project manager, you need to start understanding the idea of value and benefit. So don't just be thinking of deliverables. My project is producing these deliverables. My project is producing these deliverables to bring a benefit to the organization. And I'm not so wedded to the idea that I'm going to drive this project through. If it becomes the wrong project, well, I'm happy to kill that project, regardless of the sunk cost at that point. Okay. So, but historically, some project managers were very emotionally involved with some projects and maybe didn't quite always look at it from a real business perspective. Now, just to get this thing down, this couple of slides coming up are very important that we look at it. Look, obviously, we're a training organization first and foremost, and sometimes when people come on a webinar, they think we're trying to sell you something. And today I'm not, right? I'm saying to you, look, if you are trying to progress your career in anything, or trying to learn any new skill or move any career, it doesn't necessarily have to be project management. There's a well-proven model called the 70-20-10 model. Okay. And what that is really saying is that if you want to progress up any ladder, 70% is through on-the-job learning. Getting yourself exposed to some role at work and jumping in and being able to do it. So 70% of your capability is acquired really by on-the-job learning. 20% comes from mentoring and feedback from your manager, or having some mentor higher up the organization that can really drag you and give you time, give you skills, give you feedback on how you're doing. And that's not necessarily your boss. That's it's a mentor I'm talking about here usually, but it could be your boss as well if they know what they're doing. But the last 10% is actual courses, then certifications and classroom training, etc., etc. And I suppose that's our space. But we can't fix this for you. We can give you 10% of it. I can't give you, I can't give you this 90. Okay. So that's why I want you to be thinking that this, if you are trying to progress your career, you need to be thinking, yeah, going on a course and is not going to, it's going to move you, but it's not the be all and end all. You should be really thinking about 70% on the job learning, 20% from mentoring and feedback, and I'll get the last 10% from Velopi or Educate 360. Okay. Now, let me talk you through what that looks like. Because what you should be thinking about is, where am I now and where am I trying to go to? So you might be thinking, I want to develop some project team members. So let's say you're a project team member at the moment, and you want to maybe start to edge your way into project management. You might be thinking, okay, well, I need to put my hand up at work. So this is the 70%. I need to request an opportunity to manage a project. It can be something small. Okay. You should be able to talk with the boss, the sponsor, and understand the objectives and benefits. You should be able to scope it out and work out the deliverables, develop a simple schedule, put milestones into it, you know, talk to your boss then about the strategy of how we're going to actually do this project. So it's things like that will give you the 70% actual on the job. The 20% then, again, get feedback from people as you're doing the works, hold meetings with your project sponsor, get them to give you critique your work, whether it's scoping, whether it's scheduling critical paths, whether it's risk with mitigations and the contingencies, really understand, are you doing a good job? Pick different areas and seek out feedback on them. And then the 10%, what would people start with? Well, people often start with something basic like an introduction to project management, or something like a 2-day project management essentials course. And all you can do is, wherever you are now, take a simple template like this. And if you're already a junior project manager, you might be thinking, well, I want to become a senior project manager. What type of stuff would go in the 70? What type of stuff would go in the 20? What type of courses would Seamus recommend in the 10%? Okay. So that's the first thing I would say to you, is start to get read maybe more on the 70-20-10 model if you want to understand it a little bit more, but try then and get thinking, going on the course itself is great, and that will give you the 10% maybe to enable you to get real value from these other side, but it has to be a more holistic approach than just going on a course. Okay. So if you do get your 70-20-10 model together, the 10 model, I suppose, then the 10% is the bit I can maybe give you a bit of help with now after this, and say, okay, where are you and where do you want to be? And, if somebody tells me they're very low level competency at the moment, I'm not going to try and say, oh, you should do your PMP, because, well, you haven't got the experience to do it. But you will get there. But that could take you a number of years. Say in the PMP case, you need to get 3 years of experience before you could actually do the exam if you have a degree. So you start to look at this and say, well, where am I now? And like, some people might start off with something, a basic PM Essentials course. But then over time, they start to think, actually, I want to be certified PMP style in 5 years from now, or I want to be the program manager. In programs, where you're managing multiple projects at the same time with a view to getting incremental benefit from them. So what you're doing here is you're thinking, this is a journey. And I suppose these career paths, these are academic career paths here, is what I'm looking at. And some of the courses have certifications from, say, the PMI, and some of them have certifications from academic bodies, in our case, University College Cork in Ireland. But again, what I'm trying to get you to is that it's not necessary that you have to do, in this case, a certified course, but you want to see your pathway to something. And I suppose that's where people do get a little bit messed up, where they get confused, say, between Prince and PMI certifications, and they have a mismatch of things, and they're not complementing each other. There's nothing wrong with having some of both, maybe to expose yourself to different ways of doing things. But sometimes people approach me and they've done, I don't know, they've been on a course, paid a lot of money for thousands of dollars, and I say, yeah, but it's not what you needed really. And they say, yeah, but say, look, you got to go back. It's like snakes and ladders here, and say, look, start here and build your way up to this again, if that's really where you want to go. Okay, so let me talk you through maybe a little bit of this. If somebody came to me and they were very new, they were a project team member, or they were trying to run a small project, there's no point in going too deep. What you need to be able to do is, as I said, you need to be able to write, agree the objectives with the sponsor, agree the benefits, understand who the stakeholders are, get the basics of progress reporting under your belt, be very clear on why you would report, format and frequency, etc., controlling the narrative, so to speak. Big things, if you're ever going to be a project manager, you need to be able to scope out the job. You need to be able to take that initial idea and stretch it out and say, this is in, this is out of scope, and be very clear on how to do that. And then once I have that scope, how do I work out how long it's going to take? What does that schedule look like? What is the critical path here? What are the real challenges around estimation of effort and resource, and how duration is different to effort, and all these things? And you've got to get your head around those. Then risk management, what can go wrong? But also from a project management point of view, what can go right? So it's not just about threats, it's about managing opportunity as well. And then monitoring and controlling, taking corrective and preventative actions, being able to understand the status of the project, being able to come up with a simple forecast for your boss, how to manage changes. People, stakeholders will always want changes. How do you manage those? And eventually closing out and doing lessons learned. And again, that's usually where most people would start. And if you think of your 70-20-10 model, this is the 10% that I'm giving you, but you could use this then to fill out your other parts and say, well, I actually need to get a experience in scoping out a project. I actually need to do something around scheduling and holding estimation workshops or something like this. So you can start to populate back. If you can then anchor, say, this is the right course, all the stuff covered in here, I need to get the letter 70 and 20 out of this. I need to seek out, I don't know, maybe you might have a guru at work in Microsoft project, and you might say, actually, I'm going to get support from that person to get feedback on how I'm building my schedules, and etc. So again, the course will help you maybe populate the other 90% as well. If you decide then to move up to something like the PMP, you can start to see now that I'm looking at more than tools and techniques. I'm starting to see more stuff here about benefit, right? I'm able to talk that language. I'm not doing the project now. I'm not scoping and scheduling. I'm doing all those things as well. But I'm really interested now, though, in, strategic alignment. Why are we doing this project? How does this project, deliver on the strategy of the C-suite? What benefits will it bring? How will I measure those benefits? When will I measure them? Who will measure them? How will they be measured? How will I prove to the organization that my project brought value? But a huge part of these more bigger courses is people management. So it's all about forming the team, resourcing it, but then leading the team. Not everyone, a lot of people are very good at scoping and scheduling, but they can't get the people to work for them. They have poor people management skills that I spoke about earlier. So again, a lot of these more advanced courses look at things like managing conflict, mentoring, dealing with resistant stakeholders, getting people on board with your project, etc., influencing, negotiating for resources, etc. So I suppose that really, as I said, it's not just being brilliant in Microsoft project or brilliant in pivot tables so you can produce fabulous budgets and everything else. That's only part of the job. The harder part I find is often is the getting the people to work, managing the stakeholders, dealing with the politics and all this type of stuff. That's harder. And then over here, being able to evaluate progress, remove roadblocks, issues, obstacles, impediments, all that type of thing, and eventually closing out. But also, doing your lessons learned, but making sure the benefit is realized, but also then capturing knowledge so that the organization, if we had to do a similar project, can leverage that knowledge to go a second time and do it faster, cheaper, better, whatever, what you're trying, as in you're not starting from scratch every time. So we build up this knowledge, and project managers have a huge responsibility around knowledge capture, building up that repository of knowledge so we can do it again. Okay. So you're getting a feel now for the career progression, that it could start off with something very light, with eventually progressing into a whole host of areas, not just the traditional project management skills, but also the soft skills, also the business skills, etc., etc. What support do we give people? I suppose, well, we make sure they go on the right course. And if they end up doing something with us, they're very much supported through until they get that certification, in that they're end-to-end processes here for certifications. Once people do their PMP and they practice that, they move up the next level very often up to program management. And remember I said program management is more about running multiple projects at the same time, with a view to the program giving more benefit than if we ran all these projects individually. But we have all the usual stuff in here about, initiating, planning the programs and all those types of things. But a big part of program management is understanding, I suppose, the strategy, how to take a strategy from your boss's boss, or the CEO's, the C-suite of your organization, and how to implement that strategy by putting programs in place. So again, in here now, you need to know more about strategy. You need to be able to interpret strategy. You need to be able to understand what the vision, the mission, etc., are, what those strategic objectives, and you're then trying to, I suppose, link your program into that, and saying my program is going to deliver on the strategy. And again, that's a good step up for many people. And also in here, there's modules on governance, on senior stakeholder management, because as you go up the ladder, the politics probably is a bit different, to say the least. And again, the importance of governance, etc., starts to become more relevant, given the amounts of money involved, I suppose, the sheer scale of some of these programs, etc. as well. You need to put governance plans, you need to put benefits registers, you need a different skill set as you go further up that career path. You could do, so as I said, you can do project management and move up through those professional certifications like the PMP, PGMP from the PMI. Other people, though, would say, actually, Seamus, I'd like to do something with a university certification. And sometimes people do this because maybe they left college early when they were young, they didn't finish out their degree, and now they want to write that, and they're in a better position, maybe financially or career-wise, and they say, I need to get a certification, a university certification, Seamus. And again, in UCC, we've got courses that are, go on over just one semester. People attend them as evening classes online on Zoom. We have longer courses at level 9, which is at master's level. So again, people attend those part-time. They attend college one Friday a month, and they attend the rest online over Zoom. But again, some of these are done in company as well. So company might come to us and say, yeah, we're not going to do the PMI one, Seamus. I want the guys to actually practice scoping, scheduling. I want them to understand this. I want them to really apply it. And I'd say, okay, well, then we'll do a 5-day course, and it'll be certified by University College Cork, not the PMI. Okay, so again, there's depending what you want to get from the course. And you could have somebody else say, Seamus, I want no certification. I don't want the PMI. I don't want UCC. I just want a decent project management course to get my team scoping, scheduling, risk, people management, etc. And then they do something like applied project management. So as I said, there's so many options, but they're all along, I suppose, a career path for you to say, where are you now and where you're trying to get to. And that's what we do, I suppose, at Educate 360. As you start to build up that this ladder back here for yourself, we'll be able to advise you more then in what other courses are applicable at this stage of your career. So you might say, actually, I want to know more about governance. I want to know more, Seamus, about benefits. I want to know more about defining KPIs for my PMO. I want to know more about, this whole host of topics. Or I want more skills in agile. So again, you need to take this table away and say, where am I? Where am I trying to go? Come back and talk to me. I'm happy to advise you. But again, you need to be then thinking, how am I going to get the other 90%? And I want to emphasize that to you that, yeah, it would be great if everything you could just go on a course and get all of this. The adult learns really by by doing, and the adult learns by getting feedback. Now you can go on the course and that'll give you a huge percent as well, but it's you perfect the skill really and get the real sharpness from actually playing the game, I suppose. Okay, so look, I'm going to leave you at that. I hope you found today's session somewhat interesting and maybe it's provoked some thoughts in your head to say, actually, I need to take this seriously. I need to put a career path in place for myself here. And I need to discuss it with my boss. And I need to fill out that 70-20-10 model for myself. Okay. All right. I'm conscious of time as well. Okay. So there's a few you'll get the slides. Everyone will get the slides after this presentation. So slide 4 is what somebody wanted to see. But again, we'll send out the recording to you. Slide 4, which is slide 4, I'll just check now. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one. Okay. But again, you'll get the slides, you'll get the recording. There's a question there from Joan. Can you give insights on how to qualify as PMO? I don't understand what you mean by that, Joan. But again, send me the question directly, and I'm happy to talk to it or to reply to you privately. And there's no problem, and there's no charge. Okay. So all right. Is there any other questions from anybody there, Mariella? Are we okay?
Hey, Seamus, I think we are all good to go.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Seamus, for your time. And thank you all so much for attending today. This was a lot of great info for our future project managers of the world. If you need any more info on this topic, audience, please do not be afraid to visit us at velopi.com. And again, if you missed out on any part of the session, we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. Alrighty. Thanks, Seamus.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Mariella. Bye-bye now.
Of course. Everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend. See y'all later. Bye.
Bye.